Hi everyone, this is Gail from Gail G Makes. Hope you're doing well. So today I'm just going to do a simple, quick little retro style picture. So I've gone for, this is great just using found objects or items that you've got around the home. I went to my local charity shop, got some tapes. So I'm going to use Liquitex Acrylic Heavy Body in Paynes Grey, which is my favourite colour. So let's get this down. This isn't the plate that I usually use. I've had to use a slightly different plate because the other one it's got lots of layers on and you can't really see what's being printed on it anymore because it's a bit grubby, but it's my go-to loyal plate that I know works for pretty much everything. I'm sure, you know, if you haven't already, you will end up with a plate like that. So this one's a bit newer, so you can see it's sort of starting to bead up a bit already, but I've found generally when I've used it for camera, it's behaving itself fairly well. So I'm just getting a fine layer down of the Paynes Grey, brayering it off at the side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a tape. I've already used this a little bit in one of my other tutorials. And I'm just going to do I'm not worried so much about the actual tape itself this time, the tape here, but I'm just going to do a print of the actual case. Okay, and another one. And I'm just going to whiz that along a bit now, but you will notice as I go along that I do pull out a little bit more of the tape and actually kind of wrap that round and thread a bit through just to give an extra effect alongside the case. Works quite well. Okay, and on this last print here, the paint was getting a bit dry, so I had to press on really hard, but it's giving me a really nice defined, crisp print there, so that's quite a nice contrast to some of the darker prints. And I've decided to use the turquoise colour from Amsterdam Acrylics. It's just a nice sort of vibrant colour, has a bit of a retro feel, and should contrast quite nicely with the Paynes Grey. So I'm just going to whiz this on a little bit because, you know, you don't want to watch me brayering for too long. Now I'm going for a fairly thick coat. Well, I want to be able to see the print through it basically, but it's I'm not necessarily worrying about it as much as I would an image transfer. But yeah, a fairly even layer. You can see some of the detail is being lost in the middle there, so maybe I didn't quite leave this to dry as much as I should, but when I actually pull this, I'm pretty happy with the print. Now generally when I do pulls these days, I like to use multivarious card, which is by a company called Lavinia stamps. It's a very thick card, it's about 330 GSM, and it's very forgiving. You can leave it on your actual gel plate for quite a long time and it won't buckle or tear. It just pulls like every sort of little fine detail, which is what I really like about it. So I'm just gonna give it a bit of a rub and then I'm just gonna leave it sit for a couple of minutes. Okay, and ready to do the final pull now, so let's hope we don't lose any of this nice colour. Well, just a tiny bit at the bottom, but it's fine. Ooh. Yes, I'm liking the kind of mysteriousness of that. It kind of looks quite, almost a little bit eerie. I think the extra paint that I added in the middle there that kind of sort of pulled away some of that finer detail has added to that. It gives it that sort of, it almost reminds me of, like, say, white noise, you know, in the middle of the print. So yeah, obviously some people might decide that they want more detail in there, so just make sure it's completely dry before you pull it if you want that. And you know, obviously using open acrylic is a good idea because it will let you spend longer over your actual print and then it will take longer to dry in the long run, but it means you can manipulate more while you're actually laying your tape down. So yeah, so it's all about experimenting really, and what I'll do is I'll continue to experiment now with the actual tape inside the cassette to make some backgrounds for landscapes, so I'll show you that next. Next thing I wanted to just have a go at was just laying some of the tape down. I'll just get a bit of really faint colour on there. I just wanted to do some experimenting with some rice papers really. So I have got some Cobalt Blue, and what I want to do is lay this down. So this is Liquitex again. So again, this is obviously my favourite brand for the image transfer, but we're not actually doing image transfer this time, but I'm still enjoying using this sort of paint. So, and I'm going to do a bit of a thicker layer because obviously we're not worrying about the image transfer this time. So let's get some more on there. And once we're happy we've got a nice thick layer on there, what I'm doing is just pulling bits of the tape off and then just laying them, because I want just sort of like something that I can use for landscapes really. So I've always got quite an interest in like very sort of thin lines to provide a texture in a landscape. So this tape is perfect for that, and I'm not worrying too much about how I'm laying it down. As I go further up, I'm going to kind of lay it at more angles, so it's looking a bit more like hillsides. But really, this is going to be pulled apart once it's been printed. You know, torn rice paper sheets, general sheets. So I'm not worried about it being perfect. Okay, so let's give that a pull. And actually, I kind of wish I'd pulled that with rice paper now, because that would be beautiful. Okay, and then we're going to pull off the pieces of tape. There we go, and we can keep those and reuse them. And I did originally pull these remaining lines with a very light colour, but it didn't pull very well and it left quite a lot of paint behind. So what I'm doing is just going in with that beautiful sort of turquoisey colour by Amsterdam. And I've got some trace marks left behind of the previous pull, and then I'm going to actually lay the tape down on top again this time. So I'm hoping I will get sort of, you know, 2 different colour lines then when I pull eventually. With the rice paper. And here we go. So I'm going to do it slightly differently this time, I think. Slightly more, not quite so straight line. So I do love... Oh dear, don't pull your previous ones up. It's not as easy as it looks when you've got sticky tape that you try to use, because it's kind of got previous bits of paint on it. So go for that fine line. I do love getting textures like this though, because I've always liked quite like that bit. That's interesting. I've always liked like very fine, thin texture lines like this for some reason. Hubby will verify that. Right, so what I'm going to do then is lay a piece of that rice paper down on top of this. Remember, smooth side down, so it's not causing you too many problems. And we will give that a rub. Obviously, I think when you're using the rice paper and when you're laying it down and it's kind of on your collage, even though it kind of goes a bit more transparent, I think you'll see these bits, these sort of fibrous bits coming through, which could make it quite interesting actually. So, so yeah, hopefully that will prove that way. Oh yeah, look at that bit there. Oh yes, I am liking that bit a lot. So yeah, that is a really nice rice paper pull. Loving that. And so it makes me think of landscapes, and it pulled some of the background that it left on from before. Look, so yeah, really liking that one. So let's pull these off. And then, that's the one I like. Don't want to use that one. And let's lay them down. And then I've got to think what colour to pull this with. Now, I am tempted, actually. I have bought through my... Here we go. I've bought through my golden iridescent bronze fine. Now, this one, I think that should be about dry enough. Yeah, it doesn't take long. So let's do our brayering off again. Yeah, the Brayer's fine. Yeah, this is golden. If I can get the lid off. Oh, dear. Yeah, there we go. Golden iridescent bronze fine. Now, this is very expensive paint, but it gives you an amazing effect when you're just pulling foliage and things like that with it. It's so good. No, it doesn't want to go back. The lid doesn't want to go back on properly. Okay, so I'm just going to bray that out. And we'll see how this looks with the turquoise coming through. So that looks quite nice on the brayer and off sheet. That's what we've got. That sort of looks quite a lot like patina, doesn't it? Okay. Of that sort of kind of rusty I love rusty colours, and I love kind of oxidisation as well. That sort of goldy turquoise, beautiful. Okay, and again, I'm going to put it on rice paper, smooth side down, and we'll see what we get. So that's quite interesting. It's not pulled at all how I would expect it to, but you can see, I don't know if you can catch the shimmer there. Yeah, quite like that. Thought the turquoise would stand out a bit more, but it's not. But what we could do is we could pull it again. Or we could just pop some turquoise down on the plate. I quite like it when you get that sort of effect. You know, like little sort of sections like that. So I might just pull that, to be honest, onto here, and we'll see. Maybe do a few cutting bits into that. Lay that down again. Pick up what we can. It may just add a bit more of an interesting element. Yeah, quite like that, yeah. So we've got those sort of digging, those marks there as well now. So we've got a little bit of more texture added to that one. And then maybe, let's think, if we add a little bit of this lighter colour. So this is my buff, which I use a lot to pull with. And we'll press one of the tapes into this. This was my favourite thing to do the other day. Now, it's not coming out as well on the white, but I think it will make quite an interesting print on that bronze. And the interesting thing about the tapes is that they almost look like, we found the other day when me and my husband were looking at my last image, it almost looks like houses or something if you look at it. Let's do it that way as well. or quite architectural almost, especially if we're doing it that way, which I didn't think to do the other day. But yeah, quite interesting shapes that it's picking up. And we'll go back over with that one, see what we get. Oops, I think they're going flying. Okay, pull that. It probably won't show up much, but it might just add a little bit more to this. Yeah, there's just really faint. You can just see some sort of faint marks that just make that piece a bit more interesting. So yeah, I'm liking that, and you still got a bit of that sort of sheen as well. Okay, one more experiment, and I'm just going to use some Elements ink, which is a dye ink, and this can be blended with water. And what I wanted to do is just see how an ink would react with the tape printing. So I'm just going to use a clean brayer, get some ink on my brayer. Make sure you got it all the way across. Don't need lots, and just going to lay a layer of ink down. And I've only got a small square piece of card this time, so I'm not worried about covering the whole plate. Now it will look really light on your plate as well when you're doing it. It's sort of almost like it's fading into the background, but I'm not too worried about that. So that, I know that's definitely on there, so just put my lid on my ink and bring my tape in. Now I'm going to use a different tape because that one has got quite, the previous one I used got quite a lot of paint on it now, so break this bit of tape off. I like the effect we got when we sort of folded it round a little bit, so I'm going to go for that same sort of effect. Okay, and we're just going to have a go at laying that down. Remember, the more we pressed on, the more we kind of got out of it, didn't we? So that's one bit, and we'll have a go like this on this side. I have no idea how this is going to turn out, but we'll see. It's always interesting to have an experiment, isn't it? And we'll just do another bit there, and then we'll have another one out there. Okay, and is that gonna? It's not gonna take up the whole sheet, but we'll give it a go. So just gonna lay that down over the top, give that a rub, and we'll see what we get. Can give it a brayer as well if you want to. I mean, that's giving me it's taken a lot of my colour off. So obviously rub your brayer off if you're not worried about it being on the back, but I'm not really fussed. This is just an experiment, but just remember you've got that shows you how much ink was on your brayer when you could barely see any. So there we go. And then we'll turn it over just so you can see, and you can see how much is actually on there compared to what you could see when you were laying it down. So we pull that off, and we've got that really interesting ink layer to work with now. Now obviously we've got some gaps, we could trim that, that's fine. But also what you can do, if you get in there quickly, is you manipulate this a little bit with water, so you can get a paintbrush and maybe blur certain areas out, or whatever you want to do. Obviously you can go over this with a pen layer, you could use Posca pen on the top. There's all sorts of possibilities, but I just think it's nice sometimes to show people it's not all about acrylic paint. You can get other things on your gel plate. I love to use Elements inks on my gel plate. I love to use Distress Oxides. I also love to use alcohol inks on there. You know, there's so much you can use. Even watercolor paint, it will bead up, but you can get some really interesting effects from it. So don't be scared to use things on your gel plate. Usually if you look around on YouTube, somebody would have tried something, you know, if you're not sure whether you can use it or not. But generally, as long as you're not kind of cutting into it, your gel plate's pretty good for experimenting with, really, and it's not going to come to too much harm. So yeah, so I hope you like that little added extra. Like I say, the possibilities are pretty interesting with the ink. And have a browse around. Like I say, there's lots of other gel plate videos using all sorts of things on my channel, and I hope you have a go. Take care of yourselves, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.